Rome did not create Boudica. Rome unleashed her. Before the fires, before the screens, before her name became a warning whispered in Roman camps, Boudica was a queen in waiting. Wife to King Prasutagus of the Iceni, mother of 2 daughters, ruler of a people who still believed the land itself watched and remembered. Britain was not just territory to its tribes, it was alive. Forests were sacred, rivers carried memory, the dead were never far. Power did not flow from stone palaces or written law, but from bloodlines, oaths, and the favor of gods older than Rome. Women could rule, queens could lead war, and when Prasutagus governed, Boudica stood beside him not as ornament, but as equal. Roman writers would later describe her with unease. She was tall, taller than most men. Her presence was commanding, almost confrontational. A mass of red hair fell down her back, wild and unbound. Her eyes were said to burn with intensity. Her voice, when she spoke, carried, not shrill, not pleading, but sharp and deliberate. She wore a heavy golden torque at her throat, a mark of rank and defiance. She looked, they said, more like a war leader than a queen. Rome tolerated this for a time. When Prasutagus died around AD 60, Rome moved quickly. Client kings were useful only while alive. Once gone, there was no reason to pretend. Roman officials ignored his will. They annexed Iceni land. They stripped nobles of status. They called in invented debts to crush resistance. And then they chose to make an example. Boudica was seized and dragged before Roman soldiers, not privately, not discreetly, but publicly, where her people could see. Rome believed humiliation destroyed authority. That fear killed rebellion before it began. She was stripped and flogged, not a ceremonial punishment, a brutal one, leather biting flesh, blood on the ground. A queen reduced to something meant to be broken. Then her daughters were taken. Roman soldiers raped them, deliberately, methodically. This was not chaos, this was policy, a message. To Rome it was cruelty, to the Britons it was sacrilege. The flogging of a queen was an insult, the violation of her daughters was a curse. From that moment, this was no longer about governance or taxes. It became something older, something darker. Boudica vanished from Roman view, but not from Britain. Across the forests and settlements of the East, word spread, not whispered, carried. Around fires, in sacred groves, at shrines older than memory. A queen had been humiliated, her daughters violated, the gods had been offended, and the gods demanded payment. Boudica returned not as a petitioner, but as a war leader. She spoke of Rome not as rulers, but as thieves, as parasites feeding on the land and its people. She did not promise safety, she promised vengeance. She called on ancestral spirits, on the dead, on the living to remember every insult, every stolen field, every whip. Tribes rallied, Iceni, Trinovantes, and others long abused by Roman arrogance. This was not a Roman army, no uniform discipline, no standardized steel, but it was enormous. Tens of thousands answered, and families followed. This was not a campaign of conquest, it was a reckoning. The first target was Camulodunum, the Roman capital of Britain, a city built as a symbol of domination. Veterans lived there on seized land, protected more by arrogance than walls. The Britons came like a flood. The city collapsed in days. Romans barricaded themselves inside the temple of Claudius, praying to an emperor god who never answered. The Britons burned everything around them. When the temple fell, no one inside survived. The earth itself was scorched. Archaeologists still find the ash. Rome dispatched the 9th Legion. They never reached the city. Somewhere along the road, Boudica's forces struck. Roman formations broke under sheer weight. Soldiers were dragged down, surrounded, butchered. Only fragments of cavalry escaped. Thousands vanished into British mud and blood. Now the rebellion could not be ignored. Boudica turned toward Londinium. The governor, Suetonius Paulinus, understood the danger and fled. He abandoned the city to save his army. Those left behind were slaughtered. Londinium burned. Then Verulamium burned. For a brief, terrifying span of time, Roman rule in Britain ceased to exist. Boudica rode at the front, standing in a war chariot, daughters beside her, spear in hand. She spoke before battle, calling on the gods, reminding her warriors what Rome had done, not just to her, but to all of them. For months, she ruled not as an administrator, but as a force of destruction. Roman accounts speak of mass killings, ritualized violence, crucifixions, and sacrifices. Some details may be exaggerated, but the fear was real. This was not orderly warfare. This was a people unleashing generations of buried rage. When Suetonius finally forced battle, he chose the ground carefully. Discipline against numbers, steel against fury. The Britons charged, and they died in their thousands. Roman blades worked relentlessly. The Britons, trapped by their own wagons and families, were slaughtered. What began as vengeance ended in devastation. Boudica fled. Some say she poisoned herself, choosing death over chains. Others say illness claimed her. Rome never captured her body, never paraded her. Perhaps they feared what would happen if they did. After the rebellion, Rome ruled Britain differently, more cautiously. Governors softened policies, forts multiplied, legions remained wary. The memory of Boudica lingered like a warning, not to underestimate the warriors and the women of this mystic land. Britain was conquered, but never trusted. And centuries later, Rome would abandon the island entirely. We do not know where Boudica is buried. We do not know how she truly died. But the land remembers, and Rome never forgot the day Britain rose, not for glory, not for empire, but for revenge.